Your enemies don't want to fight you. That would be honest. They want something easier. They want access to your nervous system. They poke you just enough to trigger emotion. Then they sit back and watch you do the work for them. They bait you into explaining yourself. They pull you into public reactions. Because the moment you react on their terms, you don't look powerful, you look manageable. Most people think power is loud, aggression, confidence, a clever comeback. No. Real power is psychological. If someone can control your emotions, they can control your behavior. If they can control your behavior, they can control your reputation. And once they control that, they control your position in the hierarchy. That's why they don't attack your skills first. They attack your composure. They want you angry, defensive, off balance. Because reaction is not strength. Reaction is permission. And here's the brutal truth. As long as they can predict your emotional response, they own you mentally. So what happens if you stop giving them that? What happens if instead of emotion, you give them nothing? That's where this begins. Not self-improvement, not confidence coaching, not be fair. This is about becoming unaffected, not by arguing, not by exposing, not by revenge, by removing your mind from their reach. Watch carefully. Most people think conflict begins when words are exchanged. Wrong. Conflict begins the moment you react, because reaction is data. Every irritation, every defense, every sarcastic reply, every explanation teaches your enemy what works on you, where the nerve is, how far they can push, what pressure gets results. That's why they repeat it. Not because they enjoy it, because it works. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is control. The first level of dominance isn't intimidation. It's non-reactivity. When you remove instant reaction, something uncomfortable happens to them. They lose feedback. Their button doesn't produce output anymore. So now they have to guess. And guessing creates anxiety. Anxiety creates mistakes. Silence isn't passive. Silence is pressure with no direction. It forces them to fill the gap with their own imagination. They replay the conversation. They assume motives. They escalate internally. While you stay still, the man who shows his thresholds becomes measurable, and what can be measured can be exploited. So don't become measurable. Become unreadable. Here's the trap. People think the person who explains best wins. They think clarity is power. No. The moment you rush to correct the story, you confirm it matters. And whatever matters can be weaponized. Enemies don't distort because they're confused. They distort because distortion forces you to move. It pulls you onto ground they selected. So your move is simple. Don't deny, don't argue, don't clarify. Let the narrative exist without you feeding it. Because a story without reinforcement is unstable. It either collapses or it gets so exaggerated that it breaks its own credibility. Either way, you win without performing. If you ever respond, respond once. Not emotionally, not defensively. Declarative. One sentence. Clean. Final. Long silence followed by brief clarity creates authority. Because the person who can live with being misunderstood cannot be controlled. Direct confrontation makes enemies careful. They tighten discipline. They hide behind politeness, denial, plausible excuses. So don't confront. Stay calm, stay neutral, stay observant. When you do that, they misread your silence as weakness. And that's when they get sloppy. They talk more, push further, contradict themselves, escalate unnecessarily. Not because they're stupid, because comfort lowers restraint. So you let them talk, you ask neutral questions, you let silence hang, you let them fill it. This isn't interrogation, it's permission. Over time, patterns show up, one face in public, another in private, restraint in words, escalation in behavior, accusing others of what they're doing. And you don't need to destroy them. You just stop carrying them. Because instability always loses against composure. Observers side with stability over chaos every time. Most pressure isn't created by threats, it's created by speed, deadlines, forced decisions. Answer now. Artificial urgency, because speed collapses judgment. So don't move on borrowed time. Slow everything down. You don't respond on demand. You don't decide in the moment. You don't resolve tension right when they introduce it. You let it sit. The moment you refuse their tempo, they start waiting. Waiting creates discomfort. Discomfort creates mistakes. This is temporal control. And when you finally respond, timing matters more than content. A brief neutral reply after a long delay carries weight. It signals independence from pressure. They can't rush you, so they can't steer you. Enemies run on assumptions. They think they know how you'll respond, what you'll tolerate, what you'll never do. Those assumptions are their plan. So stop being predictable, not chaotic, selective. Be consistent when it doesn't matter. Then, when it matters, do the opposite of what they expect. They expect anger. You go calm. They expect a long explanation. You go silent. They expect compromise. You set a boundary. The shock isn't the action, it's the broken model. When their model breaks, they hesitate. And hesitation kills momentum. Now they overthink. Now they second guess. Now they approach carefully. That's the win. Not because you hurt them, because you removed their ability to steer you. Most people crave closure. It's a weakness. Because closure requires conversation. Conversation gives access. And access is what manipulators want. So if someone proves they don't deserve access, you don't argue. You don't announce. You don't explain. You simply change your behavior. Clean. Quiet. No ceremony. No, I'm done. Just gone. Not out of cruelty. Out of discipline. Because your peace is not a public debate. And the strongest boundary is the one you don't negotiate. Here's the final level. The end goal isn't winning. It's becoming impossible to affect. When your identity is settled, your direction is decided. And you don't need validation, fairness, acknowledgement, or resolution. People lose handles on you. Provocation needs hooks. Threats need leverage. Narratives need your attention. If none of that moves you, they can talk, distort, escalate, and nothing reaches you. That's real power, not dominance, inaccessibility. You don't defeat enemies. You outgrow the version of yourself they could access. And once that happens, they can't control you again. Because the mind that no longer needs permission cannot be ruled.
Thanks for spending time with us. If this sparked a new way of thinking, hit like and subscribe to keep the ideas flowing. And don't forget, check the description for the links to the original books and resources we used today. We'll see you in the next one.